Okay, let's get right to our next very special guest, and that is Dutch Masters, founder of Carnivore Trading. Dutch, I mean, I'm talking to you, and we are challenging June lows. Markets feel somewhat insane because you have oil at new lows or near lows right back to January. You have gold back to 2020. Interest rates are flying. The VIX is above 30. The dollar's at new highs. But how do you feel, Dutch?
I have to tell you that I think that some of the markets are getting a little bit disorderly. It's the first time that we've seen things like the British pound last week. On Friday, it became a very disorderly market there. This is very concerning. On April 21st on your show, we actually called for a market in a slow motion crash. And since that time, the Dow and the S&P and others are down, another 20% from where they were then. One of the lessons I think is that things can go further than you think they can. One of my mentors on Wall Street told me the pendulum swings too far in both directions. And when I contemplate that today, I think about what happened in 2020 and in 2021 with the markets and how they really soared. I think we're seeing the mirror image of that almost on the backside here. And another interesting thing that one of our traders came out with the other day was if you turn the charts upside down right now, they actually look like stocks that you would buy. That are about to break out. And so think about that for a minute. If you would buy that chart that's upside down, I mean, that says a lot.
Well, there are people who are really looking for new lows, and others who say the worst of it is now, and that we're oversold. I mean, what happens as we go into elections? So some of the traders saying they think that will run up. You could have a little bit of a Santa Claus rally. What do you think about that?
We think that there is a risk that there's sort of a rip to the upside. Maybe some political pressure gets put on the Fed or some of these Fed members. We would love to see this week some of the Fed members actually come out when they're interviewed and say a few things that are in disagreement with the general Powell statement that was made last week. We'd like to see some dissenters there. That would be healthy. I think that we have 10% more to go on the downside. We've said that the S&P would be fairly priced at around 3,200. I think it'd be a screaming buy at 2,800, and we've got real problems. But our resident genius here, Trader Z, puts it this way. Until the Fed pivots, until they stop talking the way they're talking, this market will keep going down, and now they're beginning to break things overseas.
So what do you do? What do you do with the money that is at work or put to work, or do you go to cash, or do you say, hey, we're 25% off? I mean, we're 30% or 60% off on whatever. Meantime, you have almost, I mean, I say this sort of a little bit roughly, but it's 80 of the 200 and of the S&P 500. So let's say almost 20% of the S&P 500 is at 52-week lows. And the VIX is at 32. So what do you say?
Yeah, so Carnivore Trading's a big fan, like many of the people at TD Ameritrade, of the inverse ETFs. We're up about 200% year to date. We like the SPXU. We've been trading in and out of the SPXU and SQQQ, which are the inverse ETFs. We've been buying those to bet on the market going down. That's been very successful for us all year. And so we are right now, we are short the Qs, we are short the S&P through SPY, and we also own SPXU and SQQQ right now. And, this is a tough market. I understand that it's hard to go short in a market that's gone down this fast and this far, this quickly. I also know that it's very hard to go long in a market like this when, with any kind of conviction, unless you've got, a 3 to 5 year time frame, I guess. And certainly here at Carnivore, our time frame is we want to make money every month because we have to eat every month. So
sure, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
what about energy?
So we wanna,
any of the other sectors? So you're pretty much short everything. Is there any sector that you like that you might start nibbling on?
well, we shorted Whirlpool, a few weeks back, and talked about what happened there, and that thing is cratered. We also shorted Peloton, and that thing I think is going to $1. I need to beef up my security team in case their investors start coming by the LVX mansion here. We want to point out that Jeremy Siegel's meltdown last week is not to be ignored. That's my professor from Wharton. That's my man. That's the main dude. That's a guy who should have been the chairman of the Fed 20 years ago and should still be to this day, probably the smartest guy in the room. And when he melted down last week and said that they've got it all wrong, I mean, I hope they're listening to him. So the only sectors we like on the only sectors I think you can hide out on the long side, I mean, maybe you can find something in the, I think tech has been beat to hell, and you might be able to find the odd, bounce in an Amazon or a TTD or something like that. But we're just, we're not going long.
Right. And as you said, Jeremy Siegel is your guy, your old professor, and you're listening, you're paying attention. Hopefully a lot of people are. Dutch Masters, wonderful to chat with you. And good calls from you and the team there at Carnivore. Thank you. Carnivore Trading.
Thanks so much.
Dutch Masters.